Hello and hello. Welcome back to the Undisputed Champ YouTube boxing channel. If you like the videos I put out, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and please share the video as well. Let's get into the video today. Today we're talking about the Lawrence Okolie versus Glowacki fight that happened on the weekend, and we're also going to touch on the Vergil Ortiz versus Maurice Hooker fight. Starting off with Lawrence versus Glowacki. First of all, I'm just going to do a little... That's a round of applause for Lawrence for getting in there for his first world title fight at cruiserweight. Off a very limited amateur background, managed to get himself to the Olympics, big props. Then off quite a limited pro background as well, getting in there with a former world champion for his first ever belt and knocking him out in great fashion, boxing what I deem to be his best boxing performance. Normally, not to be harsh, Lawrence had sort of two styles of fighting up until his recent fights when he joined up with Shane McGuigan. His two styles of fighting were get in there with a nice explosive knockout and the opponent couldn't really get anything off, or it would be the opponent manages to kind of stay out of the way of his huge shots, and then if he got on the inside, Lawrence would just clinch him and it'd just become a clinch fest and look really ugly. And I actually went to a Lawrence fight. I went to the Lawrence versus Isaac Chamberlain fight at the O2, and I was really looking forward to this fight. I'd sold it to my friends. I'd been like, guys, come on, this is going to be a big fight. Two London boys getting at it. Like, trust me, this is going to be a fight. And it just became a clinch fest. And I was really disappointed in Lawrence's performance that night. He got the win, but the clinching just made it look horrible. And Isaac's performance as well. I was disappointed in both of them. The clinching was just horrible, and it just wasn't a great advert for boxing, especially since I managed to convince a couple of my friends to come to the fight. But putting all that to the side, Lawrence has really evolved his game. He went in there against a tough veteran in Glowacki. And Glowacki knocked out Marco Huck and Huck is an all-time great cruiser. So Glowacki wasn't to be played with. He'd only been beaten by Alexander Usyk, who's another all-time great cruiser, and he had that controversial loss to Bradis where all manner of craziness was happening after the bell. So Glowacki had a decent record. He's a decent fighter. Lawrence dispatched of him cleanly. The chopping right hand on the chin, oh my God, frightening. Lawrence has frightening power for cruiser. And as Beat said, Boxing Beats Her Rhymes, Lawrence is a genetic freak at the weight. So if he can stay at cruiser and collect all these belts at his huge frame with his crazy power, he could do this pretty quick. And then he needs to be looking to move up to heavy. But yeah, well done, Lawrence. Another thing, look, the African... or fighters of African heritage, they're coming. They're really, really coming. In this Britain, we have AJ, who's of Nigerian descent, world champ. Lawrence Okolie, of Nigerian descent, world champ. Joe Joyce, of Nigerian descent, putting in work in the heavyweight division. Joshua Buatsi, of Ghanaian descent, putting in work in his division as well. The African heritage fighters in the UK, they're really, really coming. So well done, Lawrence. When I look at the Vergil Ortiz versus Maurice Hooker fight, now this was a very exciting fight, guys. It's still on DAZN. It's probably on YouTube now, but I watched it on DAZN, and value for money, £1.99, and I'm getting these type of fights: Estrada, Chocolatito, now Maurice Hooker, Vergil Ortiz. Yeah, can't complain. Can't complain. There was two things that I noticed straight away. Vergil Ortiz, he has a typical Mexican style. High guard, tries to move at the waist, a little bit of a Mike Tyson sort of peekaboo type thing going on, but high guard, digs to the body, and then once you lower your hands, he'll start digging to your head. He seems to hit quite hard. He seems to get good leverage on his punches, and his punches were definitely affecting Hooker. Hooker on the other side had height and reach. Like, he had very decent height and reach on Vergil Ortiz, but just didn't use it. Got sucked into infighting with Ortiz, with the smaller fighter with the better hooks, and as the old adage in boxing goes, you don't hook with a hooker, but you can jab with a jabber. And Maurice Hooker trying to hook with Vergil Ortiz was a suicide mission. Maurice Hooker also, I noticed, his feet, he just didn't have good footwork. he was kind of dragging his feet behind him as he was fighting, and it was just really horrible to see. It just didn't look good, and Hooker just looks like a C version of Terrence Crawford. Like, just I know they're from the same camp and they're trained by the same fighter, but Terrence just seems to do everything that Maurice Hooker wants to do better. Like, Maurice Hooker wants to have better footwork. Terrence has better footwork. Maurice Hooker wants to train on the inside with smaller fighters. Terrence can trade on the inside with smaller fighters. And then when Maurice actually got on his jab, he was effective for a bit, but I think the body shots had worn him down and he couldn't sustain it. Vergil Ortiz did get touched up in there by Hooker, and Vergil Ortiz is 22 years old. When he was getting touched up, he had to sort of change his style a bit. He went to a cross arm for a bit, and then he lowered one of his left hand. Then he went back to the high guard, but in the end, Vergil Ortiz's punches were too hard, too strong, and he dropped Hooker. Hooker got back up, and then I think Hooker next round he went to throw a punch. It looked like he landed on Vergil Ortiz's shoulder bone, and Hooker claims to have broken his hand or damaged his hand, and he didn't get up after that. He didn't get up for the count. So, yeah, I don't know with Vergil Ortiz. That style of fighting that he has with the come forward, high guard, but eats a lot of punches, doesn't last long in boxing. If he's going to fight like that, he needs to get his world titles in pretty quickly. His world title fights in pretty quickly, because I can't see him being effective for a long time with that sort of a style. Or the belt holders, I think Errol Spence eats him up. Terrence Crawford calmly beats him, probably knocks him out as well. And then Ugas, I think the Ugas fight will be very interesting, but I think Errol Spence is going to fight Ugas before Ortiz will get the opportunity to. And if Errol Spence sucks up that belt, then it's Errol Spence or Terrence Crawford. And in my opinion, Vergil Ortiz loses soundly to both, probably gets knocked out by both. But yeah, thanks for listening, guys. On to the next one.